Hello, this is George Fotenakis and I'm starting, this is the first of my science series, and I just thought this would be kind of an interesting and fun one because I can do some hands-on activities with it, and the subject is blood. And blood is something we're all very familiar with, sadly, and it's a topic that can be scary, but we're not going to talk about scary things today. So if you are a vampire, turn this video off. This is not for you, this is for humans. We're going to go ahead and just kind of give a brief history of blood, and then we're going to do an activity with it. So historically, if you look at blood, can you imagine like maybe 500 years ago if someone fell and they cut themselves badly and they started bleeding? You know what people would do? They'd start crying because that was it. They didn't know what they could do for the person, and they would bleed to death. They knew that this red fluid inside of us was very precious because when it leaked out, we stopped living, and they called it the blood of life. Even in religions, it's referred to as the blood of life. So over history, what happened is when people injured themselves and the blood left their body, they died. So it didn't take long for people to come up with the idea, why don't we put more blood back into them? Kind of like filling up a car that ran out of gas. So they started doing some interesting things, some strange things. For example, they would take blood from a sheep and put it into a human. And it seemed to work pretty well for a while, and then the person would wobble around and fall over dead. Didn't work. And then they started using other substances to put into a person. They were able to move blood from one dog to another and keep dogs alive. But they couldn't figure out why, when they put blood from one person into another, it didn't seem to work very well. Today we're going to figure out why it didn't work, and you're going to understand how we can today move blood from person to person safely. Well, how much blood do you think we have? Well, we have between 9 and 12 pints of blood. And to make a visual picture of it, I know this is going to sound kind of silly, but I'm going to use these beef broth containers to represent an amount of blood. This is about 2 pints of blood. And of course, a little baby, an infant, would just have maybe a half of one of these. They don't need a lot of blood. But if you want to take a look at an adult, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Some adults might have this much blood, up to this quantity of blood in their body at one given time. And often you can donate blood to someone else. You can give a pint of blood, that would be a half of one of these containers. You can give it and donate it to someone else. So this is how much blood we have. Now we're going to do kind of a fun activity to give you an idea why some of these people were not able to get blood from one another and what we discovered about blood, because guess what? We don't all have the same flavor of blood. We have different types of blood, and some of you know a little bit about this already, and I want to stop here for a moment and have you think about this. Can you guess how many types of blood that humans have? And some of you may even know the letters we have given to label those types of blood. I want you to pause the camera and think about that for a moment, okay? And think if you can come up with an answer. If you can't, why don't you go online very quickly right now and search and write down those letters, and when you turn on the video again, see if you agree with my answer. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. Well, welcome back after doing a little bit of research. And if you looked around a little bit, you would find that there are really 4 different lettered names or types of blood, and they also have a plus and minus combination, so that makes 8. So you could have blood type A, positive or negative. You could have B, positive or negative. Then you could have AB, positive and negative. And then you could have type O, positive and negative. And you might think, so what? Why do we have all these letters and positives and negatives? What good does it mean to know those things? The reason we need to know those things is because you can't mix all of these blood types one from another, because it could be deadly to a person. Now we're going to do an activity to make this understandable. Here's what I'd like you to do. In a moment I'm going to ask you to turn off the video again and pause it, and I would like you to get some little pieces of paper or cards, and on those I would like you to write these letters A, B, AB, O, plus and minus. Okay? Along with doing that, I would like you to get some clear containers. They can be glasses, jars, anything that you can see through. And I would like you to get 8 of these. Okay? So we're going to use 8 containers. And then I would like you, if you can get your hands on it, get some food coloring. Just any kind of food coloring. You'll only need 2 different colors, 3 in this activity actually. If you can't get your hands on food coloring, you can use anything that will give a different color in a fluid. For example, you can pull out some Pepsi or a little bit of milk. You could even put mustard and mix it in water. We can use a lot of different things. But would you do that now? When you pause the camera, here's what you're going to need. 8 glasses. You're going to need some of these little paper labels, and we'll be ready for our demonstration experiment activity. Pause the camera now. Welcome back. Now that you have your 8 glasses and you've labeled up some cards, what I'm going to ask you to do is fill these with water and fill them about 3/4 full, okay, about that high. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and if you aren't able to get the materials, you can just watch this. If not, why don't you pause the video, and if you need an adult to help you, go ahead and get your glasses filled with just clear water. Oh, I hope I have enough for the last glass here. Oh, perfect. It's almost like I planned it that way. Now you can see I have these filled with clear fluid. Now I'm going to do this. Because I have food coloring, I'm going to go ahead and add some food coloring. If you don't have food coloring, you can use other things like I said. For example, I'm going to put a little bit of this pink in here. I'll put 2 drops, 1, 2, and let it get maybe 3 just for fun. And then I'm going to put some blue into this one. And then I'm going to put the labels out. I'm going to call this one A and B. Now scientists discovered that blood has antigens, little proteins in them, and some blood has A antigen, and some blood has B antigen, And then some of the blood has AB. So you can imagine, if I put red here and blue here, what should I put here? I'm going to stop for a moment. Maybe whisper to someone near you. I've got a little bit of A here, B here. What should I put here? Okay, I'm hoping you're thinking with me. I'll put 2 drops of that red and 2 drops of the blue. And I'll probably, when these mix together, get some kind of a purple in there. Okay, and so this is my AB. Now, as we look at these, we're going to do something else. We're going to get down here, and this is my O. And my O, I'm going to leave it crystal clear because O blood doesn't have any A antigen in it. It doesn't have any B antigen in it. So it doesn't have any of the AB in it at all. Think of it just like clear water. It doesn't have any antigens in it. Now, if you're not able to do this with food color, you can take something else, like you could put a little bit of ketchup in the water and mix it up. And you could put a little bit of mustard in this water and mix it up. And here you could put a little bit of ketchup and mustard and mix it up. And you would get enough color to do this activity. Now, you could also use other fluids, anything that will cover it. The last one I want you to do is skip down here, and where we're going to put the plus, I'm going to take a third color, and this is, gosh, I don't know if it's green or yellow. Let's see. 1, 2. Yeah, it's a really light green. I'll put another one, 3 drops there. Now, to make this more uniform, I'm going to get a spoon and kind of mix them up, okay? So I'll be right back with you. Pause for a moment. Okay, future scientists and doctors, let's see how blood typing works. Now, periodically I'm going to ask you to pause this video because I want you to think, and you have to have think time. Don't just watch this like a movie. I don't want you to sit back and let your brain be on a sofa. I want it to be working. So we see here are the different types of blood, and here's basically the rule. We know that humans have an A antigen. We know that they have a B antigen and an AB antigen together in their blood, and this funny little plus thing too. We know they have those. And the rule is this: you never can give blood from one human to another if it changes the color of this fluid to this fluid. That's the giveaway in this activity. For simplicity, when I talk about adding one blood type to another and say that it changes the color or not, let's just say, will it make that color deeper or will it alter it? Okay, so if I put this red into the blue, will it still be blue or will it slightly change? That's what we're talking about. When you're looking at this array of colors, remember, all blood is red, and it's red because it's doing its job carrying oxygen around in the body. But the red blood is red, but in this activity, I've color-coded the blood types so you could have a visual image. And what it really is there's that antigen, it's a protein that is in the blood. For example, if I took this red A antigen blood and I put it into a person that had only B antigens, wouldn't the red color change the blue color slightly? Pause for a moment, think about that. Now, after having thought about that, yes, it would change the color. There is no A antigen in this one, and this is a bad transfusion. It should not be done. How about, think of this for a moment, could I take this B antigen blood and could I put it into this A antigen without changing the color? Pause for a moment and think about that. No, you cannot put the blue color into the red. You cannot mix B blood with someone that has A blood. That is a dangerous transfer to make. So I think you're beginning to see how this works. Now, here's where it gets interesting. There's A antigen in here, and when we go to this one, do you remember we put a little A and B in here? If I added the A antigen into the AB, would it change the color here? Not really. There's already A antigen here. So someone with A blood could give to someone with AB blood. How about if I took this blood, take a look at it, you could even hold your glass up and look at it. Could I put some B antigen blood into the AB safely? Pause for a moment and think about that. Okay, I hope you answered yes, you could, because there's already some B in here. You can add B and it wouldn't do harm to this person. It's always best when in emergencies and transfusions are given to give A blood to A people, B to B, and AB to AB. But in emergencies, you can make these transfers. Now, here's where it gets more interesting. Notice this blood, O, has no antigens in it at all. It doesn't have A, it doesn't have B, it doesn't have AB. If I put this O into the A, would it change the color? Think about that for a moment and pause. Now that you've thought about it, yes, you could put this O in here and it would be safe. Now I'd like you to think about this. Could I add this O blood to the B blood? Would it change the color? Would it be a safe thing to do? Remember, there are no antigens in here to fight with other antigens. Pause for a moment. Think about that. If you answered yes, you are correct. Now, could I take this O and could I put it into the AB? Are there any antigens in here that would do battle with these antigens and cause the blood to clot and kill the person? Pause for a moment and think about that. Now, if you look at this, yes, you could put this O blood in here because there are no antigens in here to cause a problem. You might wonder, why do I have this plus over here? Lift up your jar and look at it. You notice it's different than these. And remember, later they found out, around the late 1940s, that humans also had this thing called the Rh factor. Either they had it, or if they were Rh negative, they didn't have it. By the way, it's interesting that Rh comes from rhesus monkeys, monkeys that they discovered this antigen in. Well, you can have someone that is type A, and they could be plus or minus. So remember, if they're type A minus, there are no antigens here, so this is fairly safe. But we don't want to accidentally give anyone this positive antigen that doesn't already have it in their blood. Now, I'm going to give you a question, and I would like you to talk with those around you. You can go online if you want to check, or you can use your brain to figure this out. Which one of these bloods would be the most important blood to have if there's an emergency? We now have blood banks, and we store blood in case there's an emergency, and we need it for accident victims, for people in surgery, or in disaster cases. Which one of these bloods would be the blood that you could give to most people to save lives? I'm going to ask you to pause and think about that and write it down. Now that you've thought about it, this one here is the blood that could be given safely to all the blood groups. And if you couple it with O negative, notice there are no antigens, this here is a blood that could be shared with anybody in the world, and it would be a safe transfusion or gift of life. Now, think about this for a moment. That is a blood that can help anyone. Can you guess, and this gets harder, this is tricky, which one of the blood types would be the one that could be dangerous to give to anyone? Pause and think about that. Now that you've thought about it, the blood type AB really should only be shared with other people that have AB. If I put the AB in here, the B part of this blood would be dangerous for an A person. How about this? Can I put the AB into the B? Think about that for a moment. If you want to, pause and think about it. The answer is no. If you put the AB into here, the A in here would do battle with the B in here, and we'd have problems. How about this? Would there be a color change? You better believe it. This is a very bad combination. We could not put A and B antigens in here. So if you think about it, this here is a blood that is not shared easily. Very rare, this blood. And if you have AB positive, it even makes it more difficult to transfuse it. So we look at this and we can see, I'm going to ask you to do some research and do a little scavenger hunt online. One of these blood groups, combined with the plus and minus, is called the universal donor. This is the blood group that is really, really demanded in cases of catastrophes, where if we need blood quickly, we can share this with anyone. Can you guess which combination of these would be the universal donor? He can donate to anyone. Pause the camera, the video, and let me know what you think. Now, after you've thought about that, if we take a look, this here, O negative, is the universal donor. That blood can be given to save lives to all these folks and to one another. Then if I pull this back, I would like you to think about this. One of these blood groups is called the universal recipient. That means it can get blood from any other group. Can you think which one of these groups would be the universal recipient? Pause for a moment if you need to. Now that you've thought about that, AB positive can take blood from itself, but it can also receive blood from any one of these other groups. So if you're on a battlefield and you happen to have this blood type, you can receive from a lot of different folks. Now, I want you to look down below in the notes from this video, and if you look at the Red Cross website, they will give you ideas of how many different people have these different blood group types. Can you guess, before you look, which one of these do you think is the most common blood group? I'll give you a moment, pause, search around, and come back and see if you can give me an answer. Now, after that pause, I hope you came up with blood group O, positive. That's the most common. I won't go and tell you which ones are the rarer ones, but if you look in that website that I showed you, you can see which ones are rare. And this is just kind of a fun thing to think about. One of these groups is the flavor that mosquitoes love the most. If you have this blood type, they will bite you twice as often as someone else. Have you ever been outside and found yourself slapping those mosquitoes and wondering why your friend isn't getting bitten as often? Mosquitoes love blood group O. That's their favorite. I don't know about vampires. Maybe they love it too. Now, those are some things for you to look at. What I would like you to do, I hope this activity tickled your interest, that now you're wondering a little bit more about blood types. If you look down in the notes, you can look at some of the sources I put up, and if you're interested in blood, I put a very old film that, believe it or not, I watched close to 55 years ago. And it is still an interesting film, and it's animated somewhat, but it's called Hemo the Magnificent, and it will give you an idea a little bit more about blood and how it's used in the body, and it's a fun little thing to watch. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, leave a comment, and I have something coming up for you soon. If I see that there's a demand for this film, I will be making more, and I have a lot of interesting stuff for you. So thanks for watching. I hope maybe some of you are inspired to be scientists or in the medical community in the future, because we need you. You can see now we need you more than ever. Thanks for watching.